In this video, we're going to be looking at the guiding notes for representing real-life direct variation situations. Okay. Our question of the day is going to be, how do I translate a real-life direct variation, make it look like a D, situation? Okay. Now, remember, translate for us means that we're going to take a sentence and we're going to turn it into a graph, an equation, and a table of values. We're not really answering any questions. We're just translating into its different equivalent forms of representation. Okay, so if I look at number 1, okay, example 1 says each test question is worth 5 points. And I need to create a graph, a table of values, and an equation for this. Okay, well, now just think about this. You take a test and I tell you each question is worth 5 points. So if you think about your grade, what happens if you don't get any questions right? You get 0 points, right? And remember, we said direct variation is always going to have 0, 0. Okay, now we really would hope that somebody get 20 questions right and get a grade of 100, but I'm not going to deal with 20 and 100 because it won't fit on my graph paper and it's just too big to graph. Okay, but I'm going to think just in terms of the pattern. When I get 1 question right, what is my score now? It's 5. When I get my second question right, my grade goes up to a 10. Okay, so we're seeing a pattern here. We also recognize that our rate of change is 5 because I'm multiplying by 5 each time. So my equation here is going to be y equals 5x. Now, I'm going to go ahead and look at my graph right here. So I'm going to have 0, 0. I'm going to graph 1 and 5. Right there. And I'm going to graph 2 and 10 up here. Okay. And I'm going to connect those. Okay. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to grab a ruler. Okay. So just take my straight edge of my ruler. Lay it down. And I'm going to connect my dots. Okay, now again, in every real life situation, I'm going to ask myself, once I connect my dots, what about arrows? Where do arrows make sense if the pattern continues? Where does it not make sense? Okay, so thinking about that, I know 0, 0, I'm going to stop. No arrow down here. Because think about this. If you pass 0, 0, you're going into negatives. I cannot answer negative number of questions. And I definitely not going to get a grade below 0 into negative numbers, okay? But I do know that I've gone from 0 to 1, 2 questions right, so I can put an arrow there because I can keep going and get more questions correct. So I got to make sure I have an arrow at the top, okay? Now, we just had an example of how to translate a real-life situation, okay? Turn that little statement into a graph, an equation, and a table. Okay, so let's try another one. And remember, at any point in time during the video, if you need to pause, stop and pause it. Okay, so right here, I picked this example because it has a decimal. Okay, so I'm telling you that candy bars are on sale for 50 cents each. Okay, now let's think about this. We know that we're going to multiply by 50 cents, right? So my equation is going to be y equals 0.50x, or sometimes we might just say y equals 0.5x because that 0 is not necessarily needed, okay? Now, I'm going to be careful though when I pick the values in my table because I don't really want to deal with decimals. Well, we know the first thing is if I don't buy any candy bars, I'm not spending any money. Now, I'm going to not think about one candy bar because one candy bar is going to be 50 cents, and that means I'm going to be graphing in between the lines down here in the decimals. So I am going to pick 2 because if I buy 2 candy bars, I'm spending $1. Oh, that's a nice, easy whole number to graph. Okay, not going to pick 3. Again, that's going to give you a decimal. But what if I picked 4? That means I'm spending $2. Okay, now I have 3 points I can graph over here. So I'm going to graph 0, 0. I'm going to graph 2, 1. And I'm going to graph 4, 2. Okay, I'm going to lay down my straight edge right here. I'm going to connect my dots. Now again, I'm not going to put anything right here at 0, 0 as far as an arrow goes because I can't go into negative numbers of candy bars and I cannot go into negative amounts of money. But I can keep buying more and more candy, so I can put an arrow there. Okay. Now, again, remember, why did I pick this one? To remind you, especially if you're dealing with decimals and fractions, pick values for X that's going to lead you to whole number or integer values for Y so you don't have to graph decimals or fractions. Okay? Now, let's go look at example 3. Okay? Example 3 in our notes. It says we're going to get 4 points for every ship you blow up in a video game. Okay, so what is our rate of change right here? Isn't it 4 points? So that's our M. So our equation is going to be Y equals 4X. Got me? Now let's fill in the table values. What's our first point we can always use? Oh yeah, 0, 0. If I don't blow up any ships, I don't get any points. What happens if I blow up, excuse me, what happens if I blow up 1 ship? I'm gonna have 4 points. What if I blow up 2 ships? How many points will I have? Oh, I'm gonna have 8, right? Now, let's fill this in. 0, 0. 1, 4, 2, 8. Now, again, can I have negative numbers on this? It's not, it's giving me points. It's not taking away. Okay, so no arrow at 0, 0, and an arrow at the top because I can keep blowing up ships. Now, I just thought about something I totally forgot to do on the first 2, and we're going to stop right here in just a minute and go do it. We didn't put labels on our X and Y axis on our graph. I forgot to do that. What labels am I going to use? I'm going to use the labels that go with my table that matches my tables for X and Y. X is the number of ships. The x-axis is going to be the number of ships. The y-axis is going to be my points. So right here, I'm going to write points. Okay? We really do need to label our axis. Now, I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to back up for just a second over here, and I'm going to do the same thing with number 1 and number 2. Number 1, what was my X? The number of questions, right? So let's write that down, questions. What was my Y? That was, again, my points. A lot of times people say grades instead of points. Okay? And number 2, let's put the labels on that one. X was the what? Candy bars. And then the y-axis right here was the what? Money. It's hard to write sideways sometimes. Okay? Now, I'll get that back out of the way. Sorry about that. Now, let's look at example 4. Okay. The average growth for a tree is 3 feet per year. Okay. Something I want you guys to start recognizing. The word per means that I have a rate of change. Okay. So that means 3 is going to be my M. So I've got Y equals 3X. Okay. Now, let's fill in our table. Well, it's a seed. It's an acorn. So year 0, it's not growing yet. It's just been planted in the ground. Okay. Now, after year 1, how tall is my tree? It's going to be 3 feet, isn't it? After year 2, how tall is it going to be? Well, it's going to be 2 times 3, which is 6. Okay, let's do our graph. Let's go ahead and do our labels before we forget it. The x-axis is going to be our years. The y-axis right here is going to be the feet. Okay, now can I graph my 3 ordered pairs? Absolutely. 0, 0, 1, 3, 2, 6. Again, is 0, 0 going to be logical? No, because we're not talking about the roots of the tree. We're talking about the branches and the trunk of the tree. So it's got to grow up. So no arrow at 0, 0, and an arrow at the top. Okay. Now, example 5 is different. And you're going to see this as you read the problem. Okay. Example 5 says you lose 5 points for every shot you miss in the video game. Ooh, it's kind of like number 3, but different. In number 3, we got 4 points for every time we hit something. Now it's saying if we don't get it, we lose 5 points. Okay, so let's think about what's going on here. If you don't miss any shots, I miss 0 shots, how many points do I lose? 0. What if I miss 1 shot? What happens to my score? It's going down by 5 points, isn't it? I just lost 5 points. And remember, negative means to lose. Positive means to gain. Okay? Now, what happens if I miss 2 shots? Oh, I lost 10 points. Okay? So I know now that lose means negative, so that's my rate of change. So that means my equation here is y equals negative 5x. Now, I'm going to tell you, the copier did not like my graph paper right here, so we're going to improvise just a little bit, okay? I want you to put a dot at 0, 0, and about evenly spaced, put 2 more dots, okay? This is going to be 1, and this is going to be 2. Okay? Down here, about evenly spaced, because it's hard to read it, -5, -10. See what I did? I'm just estimating it, but I'm trying to evenly space them. Okay? So at 0, 0, let's graph 1, -5 right there. And then I got 2, -10 right there. Okay? Now, when I connect these, where's the arrow? Where is the end point? This time, the end point is a maximum, okay? Because we're losing points. We can never go in towards positives, okay? So 0, 0 is as high as you can go. I can keep missing. If it was me playing the game, definitely missing. But I can keep this and going that way. Okay, now let's think about our labels. Our x-axis right here is what? The shots. What's my y-axis right here? The points. Just like that. Okay. So I still have my little labels going on there. Okay. Now, as soon as you finish copying your notes into your notebook, go to Canvas and find your assignment and complete it.